If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
So, my vagina has suddenly developed personality, specifically the personality of a cactus, bouncing between that insatiable itch to checking my lady bits in the mirror, thinking, surely there is a colony of fire ants down there, only to find absolutely nothing. Just a side smiling vagina staring up at me, slightly shriveled, looking like a deflated balloon that barely survived the party. Welcome to the hormonal dry itch. Navigating this decade is a fucking bitch. My vulva seems thinner than my patience and about as moisturized as a saltine. But apparently it's not always dryness, as I found out after misdiagnosing myself with my 400th yeast infection. It's something else entirely. I went down another Dr. Google rabbit hole, and let me tell you, the research results were lichen sclerosis. It's an autoimmune party where your nether region skin decides to undergo a metamorphosis in texture along with an intense itch. Oh, and no cure. I can deal with a 7-year itch, but for life, currently I'm on a TBC as to what it could be. So hopefully it's not forever because that will get tired real fast. But here's the real tea. No, it's not real estate. Did you know vulva dermatologists are a thing? Like a whole specialty? Why am I just finding this out now? I linked a clinic in my IG stories at Women's College in Toronto, and judging by the click-throughs and comments, this once again has proven that my TMI oversharing tells me we are all itchy and we are all confused. Many say that perimenopause is puberty in reverse. The fuck it is. Hope you enjoyed my vagina monologue. Welcome to the Fuck You 50s, the podcast for women who refuse to tolerate the bullshit anymore. This is real talk, real stories, and a long overdue reality check. I'm your host, Andrea Claire, and this podcast is the filter-free voice you've been waiting for, with a dose of F-bombs. The Fuck You 50s, unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably needed. My guest today is Dr. Trina Read, sexologist. And we are here for the sex, aren't we? Look, we've all been there. 1 minute, you're ripping each other's clothes off, and the next, you're polite roommates, taking turns emptying the dishwasher. If your sex life has left that honeymoon stage officially going from wowza to just get her done, then you might just want to have a listen. We discuss mismatched libidos, the truth about women's sexuality in midlife, the she comes first conundrum, and the chicken dance, which you have to watch that video on my Instagram or Spotify teasers. Dr. Trina Read is a #1 bestselling author, a world-renowned sexologist who wrote the book, literally, on getting back into bed and actually liking it. We're talking Dr. Read's The Sex Course and You, Me, Bed Now. Dim the lights, light a candle, and get ready. Dr. Trina Read, welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
I am so excited to be here. This is awesome.
I'm so excited to have you. I have so many questions. So let's jump in. First of all, to set the stage, you're a sexologist, not a sex therapist. And
Yes.
for our listeners, maybe you can kind of explain what the difference is.
Yeah, that's the biggest question that I've had over my 25-year career. People assume I'm a sex therapist, but a sexologist is more like an educator. So I write books and articles, and I have podcasts. So my job is to educate, and I like to think of my job as a translator. So there's wonderful people like Dr. Lori Brotto, who runs the Sexuality Health Laboratory out of UBC. And she and her team come out with some amazing research. However, if the average person read this academic paper, it would be kind of gobbledygook, like it's
Right.
like, what's the point? So my job is to take that amazing paper that they did and translate it into useful and practical information that you can do in your day-to-day sex life. And
Okay.
so my job is really to help women, become an equal partner in her bedroom.
And do you have like I don't know, is this a dumb question? Do you have like a specialty? Do you deal with like only women and women of certain ages, or
First of all, there are no dumb questions. And
okay.
yeah, I learned early on that I'm naturally good with just talking to women. I did try to talk to couples, but I do find that when I speak to women, I'm actually speaking to their partners. I'm actually giving that woman a voice to say what she needs to say, but isn't able to say it. There's a huge communication chasm between most couples, right? And I fill that role for women.
So they can get the other asm.
Yeah. We'll get to that. But yeah, so I help women in long-term relationships thrive
Yeah.
after the honeymoon stage is over. So like I'm in there with you, like in the trenches when, after the kids or in perimenopause, when you're
Yeah.
just doing your best to do your best and you still have to have sex. And what do you do now? That's where I come in.
And I guess too, some of it is just like, it's not that you have a new body, but like with all the changes and everything as we get older, it's things are different than what we had in our 20s.
So one of the biggest myths is that sex stays the same. It never changes. So like the sex that we had in our 20s will be what we have in our 50s and 60s and 80s. And the thing is, our life is an evolution. So why wouldn't our sex life be an evolution? And I feel like because most couples don't come equipped with the language or the understanding that, they have to evolve what their sex looks like, couples just unfortunately get stuck in a rut. And and once you're there, you just don't know how to get yourself out. And it's really frustrating.
Yeah. My husband made me promise that I wouldn't bring us up on
I'm not allowed to talk about my husband. Like I
Yeah.
can talk about my sex life, but I'm not allowed to talk about my husband's sex life. So so good. We won't do
Oh,
it. We
that's
won't go
funny.
there.
No, we won't. We won't. I don't know if you mind talking about this, but you share on your website that you've been like about going through 12 miscarriages. And so, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. But for women in our community who are navigating that kind of deep physical and emotional grief, how do you even begin the healing process?
I would say that uh, these really traumatic experiences tend to isolate a couple. So, you're both sitting in your sadness and despair about what just happened. And, the best advice I could give to any couple is instead of pushing your partner away, this is the moment to like lean into each other and support each other. Eventually, you're going to get back on your feet. You never fully recover from this. It's always there. But if you consciously say, you need to have my partner support me in this moment, I cannot isolate, that's going to help bring the two of you closer together faster. And I think that's not just for miscarriage. This is for like every big life trauma. Like if one of you loses a job or you get a big illness or, like something happens to your other kids, there's all these moments in your life where these terrible things happen and you just want to isolate.
Yeah.
You need to like proactively lean into each other and be the kindest to each other in those moments. Because I think we unintentionally take out our frustrations and our hurt and everything on the person we know who's going to take it, and
Yeah.
we need to really just be the kindest to that person in that moment.
If I can even kind of throw something with myself in there, when we were living in Singapore, I got a mosquito illness. I've talked about this a couple times on my podcast, but called chikungunya, and it attacked all of my joints, and I was really sick for a while. And then I had to get both of my hips replaced
Oh,
separate times.
oh,
Yeah, it was crazy. And it's just like going through that is it's yeah, when you just talk about like, you know, trauma, whatever, and it's just like it is isolating. I did kind of drop into myself.
we live in a society that says, we need to be independent. We cannot ask for support. We cannot ask for people to take care of us and cherish us and nourish us. And I feel like we got to really push against that because it's not helpful. It's making everything worse. And I would say that I didn't follow my own advice with the 12 miscarriages. I just was very much, I I was just in kind of like I'm 35, like so between 35 and 41, I had these 12 miscarriages, and
Oh.
it's like that mindset. I'm just like I got to get pregnant. I just have to do it, and because of it, because I didn't lean into my partner for support, we had some shit to deal with once the kids came along, and then like once the kids are there, and you've got all this other stuff, it's just
Mhm.
makes it so much worse.
How does that level of trauma affect a woman's relationship with her own body, and how how can we kind of boost that ability to feel safe again and intimate?
It's it's interesting you use the word safe because when I talk to women about what she wants in the bedroom, I think the last thing that she would expect to want to have in the bedroom is to feel safe. So women need to feel cherished, she needs to feel desired, and she needs to feel safe. So I would say that, if you're coming back from you're trying to reconnect after a situation, whether that's miscarriage or another big life event. It's really just not not focusing on the bedroom. It's really like focusing on connecting outside the bedroom. So it's really just taking a step back and relearning who your partner is and coming back to why you got together in the first place. Like why did you choose this person? Like what is it about them that you love and like and that means spending time with each other. So something I used to recommend when I first started doing this 25 years ago was, couples sit down once a week and, spend an hour together and have a glass of wine if that's what you drink. But, just spend an hour together, just connecting. Like I had so much pushback from people saying, we don't have time. We've got all this stuff. How are we supposed to spend an hour together? But I would say, if you are coming out of this is definitely the time to really proactively say, we're blocking out an hour. We're going to like just, go for a dinner, whatever it is you do. And we're
Mhm.
just going to connect and we're going to keep doing that until she feels like she's satiated because there's a lot of research to show that when women feel emotionally connected and filled up emotionally, she's much more open to having sex. But when she
Yeah.
feels disconnected, or I mean, this is not like, but they had to do research on this
Yeah, yeah.
just to say that it was true. It's kind of like common sense to us, but there's actual research now. So women have to like have that emotional connection outside of the bedroom before she's willing to walk in. So if you're really disconnected
Yeah.
from whatever happened to you, you need to like reconnect, and then things just
Fall into place, I
fall.
guess.
They really do fall into
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. You mentioned like that they had to do research on this for women, and I know like in a lot of things that you've written about, you say that most of the research has been like geared towards men and sex. So does this mean that women in their 50s are essentially carrying around a manual that wasn't even written for us? That it's like the biggest thing to unlearn right now is what we were taught years ago?
So the thing is, what couples learn is a male centric way to have sex, which isn't like it's not men's fault. It's not women's fault. It's just the way we learn to have sex. So it's really geared to making sure that his pleasure is fulfilled, right? And so most couples, when they walk into the bedroom, uh, most couples will try to make sure she comes first, and we'll get into the she comes first conundrum in just a second. So,
Yeah.
like if she comes, great, but if not, it's on to the main event, which is his orgasm, right? So like the whole premise around having this sexual encounter is to make sure that his sexual needs are met. And if women don't state that she needs something different, she's going to keep having a type of sex that doesn't work for her, and so that, when we started this podcast, we said, we expect that our sex life in our 20s is going to take us through to our 80s. But if you keep having this male centric way of having sex, it's no wonder that women grow resentful and feel like she's broken because she can't come first in the time frame that's given to her. Like she's got so much time to come, and if she doesn't, she feels like she's broken, so she starts to performing takes her out of her body. So the more she's out of her body, the less she's enjoying her experience. And then in the end, there's nothing like her partner orgasms. And even if she does orgasm, orgasms are an involuntary thing, like sneezing. So you can sneeze, you can orgasm without feeling any emotional attachment to that orgasm at all. So there's been many, 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 many women who've said to me, I just don't understand it, because whenever I have sex, I have an orgasm. So shouldn't I be satisfied? And, no, like orgasm is just one piece of your pleasure spectrum. It's just one thing that's going to help make you feel good, right? So
Right.
it's not that there probably is a lot more research that's male centric than there is female centric, but I would say, I think what I meant is that we are having a way of sex that is in favor of men, which is not their fault, because we
Yeah.
all learned how to do it. And so in order for women to equal this out, we need to start asking for something different.
My initial reaction is like, well, what should women be asking for? But then isn't that's individual anyway then, right?
It is. But I would say that in my book, You Me Bed Now, I give an example of if the tables were turned and sex was all about giving a woman a full body massage. Like it's just about, you walk into the bedroom, the clothes come off, and she lays down on her stomach, and it's like this full body massage. And, it's lovely, and it brings them closer, and they really enjoy it. But after a while, he's like, well, this is not really satisfying me. It's not really doing anything for me. Can't we do something that I enjoy too? Right. So I would say that what women need from her experience sits in the realm of sensuality. The thing is, when women think about a full body massage, they think about having intercourse after. Like it's like, okay, you're going to give me the massage, but then you're going to expect to have your happy ending. And that stops a lot of women from doing or asking for what she wants, so I think it's really, and I get that this is tremendously hard, even though it shouldn't be,
Yeah.
to say to your partner, tonight we're going to do things what I want to do, which is you give me a full body massage, and then the next time we'll do what you want. When women can take control of her sexual experience like that, to say, sometimes it's about me and what I want, and like the things that I need to nurture and feel good about myself. When she is able to say that, suddenly when the full body massage is done, she's like, you know what? Maybe I would like to have intercourse now. Like, I think that would feel good. But she makes that decision. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
She's making that decision. It's not an obligation that a tit for tat, quid pro quo.
Yeah.
You give me a massage now, I'm going to give you intercourse. It's more like she is like controlling and like she's saying what this is looking like.
Yeah. Which is funny, just the whole tit for tat kind of thing. It just reminds me of sex that we learned in our 20s.
It is, so
Yeah.
my first book, which was a bestseller, always have to drop that in there.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, it was 2008, so it was a while back. But, like I talk about our single woman sex, which is the sex we learn, how we learn to have sex is the single woman sex. And then we bring this single woman sex, the way we learned, into our long-term relationship, and it stops working because it's meant for short term. Like the single woman sex is meant for short term relationships. It's not meant for long term relationships.
What would be the difference between, I guess, short-term sex and long-term sex?
So short term sex, you're running on hormones. So when you first meet somebody, you've got all these juicy hormones flooding your body. Like your partner can do anything. Like they can be in the shower and they can fart in the shower. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so turned on. I'm just so turned on right now. And there's all this loving each other up. You're touching and you're like, it's very tactile and you're saying how much you like each other and you're texting each other. Like, it's just like, why, of course you're going to want to have sex with this person, right? Like, because you're like, everything is like,
Is that the same as like you'd call it like the honeymoon stage? Is that kind of the same thing?
Yeah. So it's like the first year or two of a relationship, you're riding the hormone and all the good things. And I think a lot of people get addicted to that honeymoon stage because it does feel so good. As soon as it starts to fade, they're like, I'm out of here, because this long-term stuff, it's hard work.
Yeah. They're like, on to the next. So is the first step simply getting to know our own wills, wants, desires outside of our partner's needs?
REI has ultralight backpacking gear. So for you gram counters and ounce shavers, we made this ad ultralight with a base weight of just 13 seconds. The next 17 seconds, pure trail. Find more with less in-store and at rei.com.
I didn't think the pain from the shingles rash would affect simple, everyday tasks like bathing, getting dressed, or even walking around. I was wrong. Though not everyone at risk will develop it, 99% of people over the age of 50 already have the virus that causes shingles, and it could reactivate at any time. I developed it, and the blistering rash lasted for weeks. Don't learn the hard way, like I did. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
So the first step is asking yourself, why do you have sex? Do you have sex because it brings you pleasure, or do you have sex because it's an expectation in your relationship? And that motivation, those two different motivations, will create a very different result sexually. So if you walk in to the sexual experience saying, I'm excited to have sex because I know my pleasure and all my needs are going to be met, and it's going to give me all this juicy, wonderful energy, like, that's one thing. But if you're walking into the sexual experience because, it's been a week, maybe two, since you've had sex, and, it's like, I have to like fill this quota, check mark off my list. And, that it's good for your relationship, and that it brings you closer, but you just like, it's like, whatever, it's doing nothing
Like a
for you.
chore.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like, it's just one more thing that's, instead of filling you up, it's something that depletes you. It's just something that's taking from you. I would say when you look at your sexual experience, the very first thing you need to do is walk in and ask, just pay attention to your thoughts before, during, and after. And if you're like most women, your thoughts before, during, and after are negative, and unfortunately, they could be apathetic. So if you're at an apathetic, you hear women say, I don't care if I ever have sex again. I just wouldn't care. That's apathetic. That's a bad place to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fixable, but it's just harder to make it through. So then once you understand your motivation for having sex, then there's understanding what gets in the way of you having good sex. And a lot of this is the negative thoughts we just talked about, so like you've got all this resentment built up over how many years. Sex is always about my partner. It's always about their satisfaction, even though you're not asking for anything. Like you didn't say you needed something different, but even still, like you're resenting them because it's always about what they need. Right. So then once you get through those murky emotions, then you can start asking yourself, well, what do I need out of this experience? And, and I would say if you don't know where that starts and the thing is, if we had 100 women standing in the room with us and I walked up to everyone and said, what do you want out of the sexual experience? I guarantee none of them would be able to answer. And there's usually one or two that say, I want a bigger, better orgasm, assuming that if we have a bigger, better orgasm, that's magically going to make us lose all the resentment and lose all the shit. Like it's going to just like melt away. And that's just not how it goes. So most women don't know. And so the good place to start is to understand what your favorite sense is. So go through this with me, Andrea. So there's sight, taste, smell, touch, hearing.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. Did I get it?
You're
okay.
Right.
So do you like to read a little erotica? Do you like the feel of silky lingerie against your body? Do you like the smell of a scented candle? Do you like to talk dirty? Like, what is it? Do you like to listen to, does music get you off? Like what part of your senses do you prefer? And just start leaning into that sense. So it's just retraining your mind to say, what, I know we're going to have sex soon. So what can I do to go from my mind and into my body? And you're proactively saying, I know that when I read this passage of erotica, it's going to like get me going and not feeling shame about it. So like that, we go back to step number 2 of like, what gets in the way of you having good sex? It's usually the shame. So when you're proactively saying, I'm going to, use a vibrator before I get with my partner, because that gets me going. And women are like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do that because I feel too much shame, and these are the messages that we have. Yeah. So I would say that it's just really reconnecting with your body, understanding what senses really light you up.
It reminds me of getting back to like the honeymoon stage of the relationship where we put effort into ourselves, but usually for our partners, right? So it's almost like it's kind of putting that forward and flipping it a little bit. So instead of doing it to put effort in for our partners, it's like we need to put effort in for ourselves. Does that make sense?
For sure. And I mean, most sex experts say, like, if you put as much effort into the sex you're currently having as you did when you first started dating this person, you'd be having sex all the time because you'd be touching them and you'd be texting them and you'd be like, they would be your priority. And I think that's the difference is back then, like they were your number one, and now they're sidelined. They're number, 3 or 4. I get it. You can't make your partner the number one priority all the time, but you can every single day do something to prioritize them. Does that make sense? Like,
that makes sense.
You can say, I love you, or you look really hot, or, like you can say, it takes less than a minute, but it is one of my key things is to make your partner a priority every single day.
Moving on to like our midlife, perimenopause, menopause with possible changes in testosterone levels. And I don't know all, because there's all different kind of hormones. Just recently I started taking testosterone. And I guess they're not just medical issues, but intimacy issues. And I feel like it's all kind of roughly the same what we're talking about anyway, but any advice for listeners I guess especially going through the perimenopause and menopause stages of life.
Sure.
I feel like for me, sorry, just to also add on to that, like I feel for me, it's like as I've gotten older, my body has definitely changed, right? And that's also I find a block for me because I don't look the same way that I did 20 years ago.
Yeah, so we're asking two questions. So
Yeah.
I'll answer the first question. So the first question, testosterone, I I would say that testosterone does work. However, it's like a Band-Aid covering up, you know, deep-rooted causes of your dissatisfaction. So if you go into testosterone hoping it's going to up your libido, it probably is. And just because your libido is better doesn't mean that your resentment has gone away. Doesn't mean that you don't ask for your needs to be met and it's always about your partner. And,
Mm.
that's still the same. So it's good to have the testosterone. Testosterone is not just for our libido. It's for lean muscle and for when you hurt yourself, and it helps you recuperate faster. It helps you with motivation. So there's a lot of other things that testosterone can do for you. But I would say that if you are expecting to take testosterone and magically your sex life, just like Viagra, it pops up and it's great again. It's not. You have to deal with the underlying issues if you have any. And then suddenly you're going to have the benefits of the testosterone and you're going to have a good sexual mindset. And that's what's going to carry you through to your 60s, 70s, and 80s for your sex life.
And I guess the other part I was just talking about too is just as we get older, a lot of us like our bodies change, and it's just dealing with that. Like it's I I think too for myself personally, like I'm turning 55 in a couple of weeks, and definitely look different than I did 20 years ago. It's such a mind fuck to kind of understand that it's okay for your body to change,
We were insecure in our 20s and we were insecure in our 30s. And then, here we are in our mid 50s and we should be saying, fuck you, but we're not. We're saying, I'm still insecure about my body. So I would say that there's a couple things. When we hit our 50s, we stop producing as much oxytocin, which is your tending and mending hormone. So this is anecdotal. It's not a researched fact, but okay. So this is just something I've observed. Is so women who are producing less oxytocin, they aren't worried about caring as much for other people. They start caring for themselves, and they also move into that they don't care as much. So I hear what you're saying about your body, but I feel like because we have this less oxytocin, we don't have the same body image insecurity edge as we did in our 20s, if that makes sense to you. Like we are a little bit more accepting of the things changing. And I think as long as you, like right now, it's so very important to take care of your pelvic floor, because pelvic floor is one of those things that it starts declining gradually until you're at a place where intercourse hurts. And the thing is, a lot of women, intercourse starts to hurt and then they just are like, well, I don't want to do this again. Or intercourse means they get a UTI. So I would say that as long as you're taking good care of your pelvic floor, this should be a part of your life where suddenly you have less oxytocin. You don't give a fuck as much. You're just letting yourself hang loose. And for those pioneers like Susan Bratton, so if you can look up Susan Bratton's Instagram, she's amazing. So it's at Susan Bratton, I believe. She's 64 and she's like, she just did an interview on Instagram where she was being dominated by two men and in an S&M thing. And she does not hold back, which is just to say that this is the time in our life where we can actually let go and start really exploring things and like bringing sensuality, bringing the things that we want into our sex life. And what I know for sure is that when you are an enthusiastic partner, like when you're saying to your partner, here's what I want, this is what we're going to do, you're taking charge of your sex life and you're honest to God, your partner is like, hot dog, like, bring it on. This is the best thing. I'm so glad you finally told me what you need from the sexual experience. I've been waiting for our entire relationship for you to tell me this. So, like you're telling your partner, and I promise you, your partner is not going to notice the pudge. They are not going to notice that you've got a big booty or a stomach or whatever it is you don't like about yourself. Like, as long as you're taking care of your vulva and your vagina with the pelvic floor and sex feels good, what your partner is going to see is your enthusiasm. And that's their biggest aphrodisiac.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I promise you, if you were like to your husband, who were not talking about his sex life, but if you went to your husband and said, tonight, we are doing it this way, and like, this is going to happen, and this is what we're going to do, he would not, like, do you think he's going to notice that you've got like a little extra, like something? I don't think so.
If women want to go to their doctor or see a sex therapist, like how to get them to overcome that kind of shyness of talking even just to their own doctor? Do you have any recommendations for that? And I do notice that you have a lot of free resources on your website. So would that also be like a guide or training wheels for them to kind of approach a doctor?
So they did research a few years back, and they found that, I'm just going to paraphrase, out of 100 women, only about 2 out of the 100 women will actually go talk to her doctor about sexuality because she feels uncomfortable, or on the other side of things, the older doctors, they're not trained in this, and they dismiss or diminish women's sexual health. So, there's that thing happening where women just don't use that resource. So I would say, so going to your doctor is like number one. Going to your OBGYN, number one, like go to your OBGYN, like do it. And if you are the 98 women who just don't feel comfortable going to a medical doctor, then there are really good websites like mine who, like, I'm research based, and like everything I have on there is, like I said, I know I'm a translator. I translate academic into normal. And my YouTube channel, but there's more of me. So if you don't like me, or I'm not your age, or I'm not your demographic, or whatever, there's like, honestly, there's hundreds of sexperts around the world. And I think it's just as easy as doing a Google search, for wherever you are. But I would be very careful about, there's a lot of credentialed sex experts, but there's also a lot of non-credentialed sex experts that just give nefarious information. And so I would just check out their credentials, make sure that they didn't go to woo-woo college somewhere. But as far as the sex therapist goes, there is so much stigma about going to a therapist. And yet I would say we think having somebody coach us. If I was an elite athlete and I was in a slump, of course I'm going to need a coach. Of course I'm going to need a therapist, but we don't have that same expectation for our own sex life. We feel for some reason that we can figure this out on our own, and the majority of us cannot. And so I would say that if you're dealing with some sexual trauma, or you have some serious issues that you're trying to manage, it's virtually impossible to, even if you did a really good Google search and you read, you went down a rabbit hole and did a really deep dive, you cannot figure this out yourself. So this is the time. And the thing is, if you have a benefits package, the majority of them have sessions with a sex therapist. So it's not even going to cost you that much. So you can just do a Google search, see where the therapists are. Most of them will do a a 10-minute free online consultation to make sure that there's a good fit for you, if, they can help you with your stuff. If you want something done efficiently and effectively and, in a timely manner, go see a counselor or a therapist.
The feedback that I've had from my podcast is I get women that message me and say, oh, like they're so happy. Some of the conversations I've had, it's relatable to them. They feel normal. Instead of researching it just on your own, that you'll have someone that'll tell you, like, I mean, maybe not normal is the right, like, technical, like, word, but just that
you can't overcome your own biases. And if you go on to ChatGPT and you plug in, like there's a new thing now where people are using ChatGPT to replace their therapist. You can't overcome your own bias to what's going on. That's where a therapist comes in. They're poking holes and they're hopefully nudging you in a different direction to think in a different way. And they can spot these things so much faster and easier than any of us could.
Yeah. You have a sex boot camp, or is that a book that you had, Sex Boot Camp?
So I rebranded Sex Boot Camp because nobody liked the name to You Me Bed Now.
Okay.
So You Me to Bed Now is an award-winning workbook, and it's a course. It's a 5-step program. It's my flagship program. And it just walks women through how to start asking for what she wants in bed.
Right. And you talk about like the sexual mindset versus the sex how-to. So can you define the difference?
Sure. So early on in my career, I would, and I still do, I have people saying, Trina, can you come do a blowjob demonstration or do a hand job demonstration? And I mean, they're really fun and it's good for a laugh, so, and it's also, when you learn how to give a good hand job, it gives you some confidence to walk into the bedroom. But as we discussed already, it doesn't solve the underlying problem of if you don't want sex, so how to get them off. And the thing is, how-tos are easier to digest because it's not anything to do with us. It's just us learning how to do something, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to do an emotional deep dive into why sex, like why we aren't enjoying sex, which is uncomfortable. So when you start going into mindset, it's as we discussed, it's really understanding how the mindset that you're approaching sex with, like, are you approaching sex as something that nurtures and gives to you, or is it more likely a negative sexual mindset where sex is depleting from you, right? So once you can turn this negative sexual mindset around to you understanding that sex is something that gives to you, it fills you up, then being able to give a good hand job or a good blow job or, whatever it is, right cowgirl style or whatever it is, like that is going to be so much more satisfying.
Can I use that on a video on my Instagram?
Oh, sure.
Perfect.
I'll do the chicken dance and you can use this for your Instagram. Okay. So when couples spontaneously walk into the bedroom, they are like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. So you know what they do? They do the chicken dance. You know what the chicken dance is?
Yeah.
Na 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 na. That's a chicken dance.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And next time you walk into the bedroom and you start doing the chicken dance, I promise you that music is going to be in your head. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do the chicken dance. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah. That in itself will, I think, push people to have a conversation, because I think that's such a recognizable.
That's how we learn how to have sex.
Yeah.
That's what we learn. And that's what we need to relearn new things.
For the woman whose life is currently defined by life, laundry, and logistics, how do we bring flirting back from the dead?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. So something we talked about already is research has shown that women need to feel emotionally connected outside the bedroom in order to be emotionally connected inside the bedroom. And when we're disconnected outside the bedroom, it's virtually impossible to reconnect. So when she's got so much obligation outside the bedroom, like if she has kids or she has a job, she's got all this other stuff. And it's really about creating those emotional ties and prioritizing your partner outside the bedrooms. It doesn't have to be a lot of effort. It's just like taking a minute out of your day to compliment your partner or give them a kiss on the cheek or a hug or just, just touching them and appreciating them and saying how much you love them. And when you both start doing these things, suddenly it's creating what Justin Lemire calls erotic threads. So erotic threads are the things that hold a couple together between sexual encounters. And the more erotic threads you have, you're still going to have your, kids got to go to soccer practice. You're still up to the wazoo in obligation, but the connection between, you're not disconnected anymore. You are connected as a couple. And something we haven't talked about in this podcast is the majority of women in long-term relationships have what is called a delayed sexual response, meaning that when sex is initiated, chances are she will not want to have sex in that moment. And in fact, it's going to take her a long time for her mind to catch up with her body's desire. So when you create these erotic threads, this emotional connection outside the bedroom, that delayed sexual response shrinks, right? So it becomes much, much easier for her to disconnect from all the things that are going on in her head and move into her body.
That makes so much sense, actually.
Yeah. It does. It's just such common sense.
Yeah. Crazy.
It is crazy.
We just need a doctor to tell us, you know.
I know.
Thanks, Dr. Trina.
You're welcome.
So on your website, you have an Are You Sexy checklist. What are one or two things that actually make a woman feel attractive and fulfilled that have nothing to do with how she looks?
Yeah, so I set that sexy checklist up for women to win. So, no matter where she is in her life, she's going to see that she's doing something that makes her appealing. That does she go out with her friends and have a good laugh once in a while? Does she do something that she enjoys doing? Like I think there's 30 questions on there, and they're all geared to show women that you're doing at least a few things that set you up to feel sexy. So it's really just doing things that make you feel good. And when you feel good, you get a lot of self-confidence. And when you have self-confidence, you have sexual self-esteem. And we diminish it. Women are only taught to push pleasure away. We're not taught to embrace pleasure. So, we're not taught to say, oh yeah, in fact, I am sexy. I do have that sexual energy. Like we're taught to push that away. So it's really just, the checklist is just to show you the areas where you're already doing this. And then it's about you embracing that you can be sexy and sexual. We've all seen that woman who's not necessarily good looking by traditional standards, but you see her walking down the street and you're like, damn.
Yeah, the energy.
That woman's sexy. Like she's got it going on and I don't know what it is. It's just her self-confidence. That's what it is. So we all have it. It's just acknowledging it and allowing ourselves to step into it.
Another thing that you said that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I'm from Saskatchewan. I'm all about common sense. Like I'm all about the common sense.
Is that what Saskatchewan is known for?
We're very pragmatic people and we have a big BS meter.
After decades together, many couples fall into a roommate phase. And how do we break the cycles where one person wants more sex and the other feels pressured and pulls away? But But I also feel that as we kind of get older and these long-term relationships, there is that priority shift too, right? And maybe sex for one partner is more important than the other.
Well, mismatched libidos is a big topic where one partner wants sex more than the other partner, and the standard academic answer to this question is so the partner who wants sex more needs to make sex a space to entice your partner. So if they're not as enthusiastic about coming and having sex with you, you've got to figure out the reason why. And chances are it's what we've already been discussing. Generally speaking, not all the time. I know plenty of men who want sex less than their female partner. But generally speaking, it's usually the woman who wants sex less. And so it's really about sitting down and saying, okay, what can we do as a couple that makes this sexual experience mutually beneficial for both of us? And there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can write a yes, no, maybe list. So write down all the things that you'd like to try, all the things that you might be willing to try, and things you absolutely would not want to try. And then you just exchange the list and you start talking about it, which is a pretty advanced communication thing for most couples, especially if you're living as roommates. So this is the moment to lean into the technology that's out there. So there are some really, really good programs. There's some really good games. So like you're starting to talk about things that are not easy to talk about with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing called Melba app. It's MELBA app. It's a voice guided instructional app where you and your partner go on and you put in your comfort level and all the things that you want to try as a couple, and then you pick something you want to do. So one partner lays on the bed and the other partner has their earbuds in, and Melba is giving them step-by-step instructions on how to do this thing. So I'm just going to go there. Can I go there, Andrea?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of women want to have a vulva massage. And their partner doesn't know how to give them a vulva massage, right? And so like you're in this place where she's asking for a vulva massage and her partner's like, oh, I want to do this. I just don't know how. And you can't, it's not like you can bring in a book.
Paper cuts are no fun down there.
So the Melba app, you put your earbuds in, she's laying on the bed and it's taking you step by step through how to do a vulva massage. And you can go spicier or you can be less spicy on Melba. But the point is, it's really about saying, okay, so our sex life is stale. We're probably in a sex rut. We feel disconnected emotionally, and we need to start prioritizing each other to get it back. And we need to start doing different things other than the chicken dance. Because we've been doing that for 30 years and it's not working anymore. So we need to do some other stuff to make this more interesting. I think the hardest thing is just bringing the first thing in. Like, so let's say you decide you want to bring lube into the bedroom. I mean, lube is so innocuous, but the whole thing about lube is you're in the middle of things and then you have to take the bottle out. Then you have to put it into, and then you have to and then it completely disrupts you. And a lot of couples get put off by the disruption, it's breaking the flow. But once you start bringing new stuff in, it's not so weird anymore. You get used to the disruptions. Sex is not perfect. It's supposed to be messy. It's not supposed to be choreographed. It's supposed to be an experience. Yeah. And we're so set on sex being performative like a porn, but that's not the way real sex is. It's it has disruptions and, people fart and things happen and it's okay. And at a certain age, you can just start embracing the messiness of sex a lot easier. And I feel like when we are in the roommate stages, we're just so on eggshells about hurting our partner's feelings or it going sideways. And there's all those pent up emotions. We just have to let that go.
Yeah.
And just get back into each other's bodies.
Yeah. I was going to say too, it makes me think about, so I saw a neurologist recently, and then he was just talking about for longevity and better health overall that we need to have 8 hours sleep a night, right? That's what he was saying. And then my husband snores. There, I can mention that. He claims I snore too, but I'm asleep. So what do I know? So the neurologist was saying if you're sleeping with a partner that snores, they actually recommend the whole like sleep divorce thing where you sleep in separate bedrooms. But I can only imagine that's going to affect your sex life, would it not? No?
No, because it's all about intention, right? It's really about intentionally making time for your partner and making sure that when you do, it's about quality, not quantity, right? Eh, You're not going to have sex while you're sleeping. At least I don't assume that most people have sex while they're sleeping. So like you can have sex just before you go to sleep, or you can have sex just as you wake up. These things are not mutually exclusive. But if this is getting in the way of you functioning properly, it does not affect your sex life.
I guess you're going to hang a sock on the door for I'm not interested. You suggest reflecting on our sex history. How does looking back at our past experiences help us navigate our sex lives in our 50s and beyond?
So when we talked about, all the things that stop you from having good sex, it's generally, it all comes down to the shame that we learn. And so all of us have those moments. And you probably know, like there's something probably in your head right now that you can think of immediately that you went through as a young person that brought a lot of shame to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hanging on to you being able to let go and have the most pleasure that your body can have. So the more we dig up these times in our life where somebody made us feel ashamed or we felt really bad about feeling like a sexual woman, all of that, when we can unearth that and just forgive it, forgive the situation, forgive the person, just let it go, then we're releasing into our ability to lean into our pleasure. So it's tough. I'm not going to lie. Digging up these old wounds is not for the faint of heart, but I promise you, when you start looking at things that were done or said, or like things that happened to you as a young person, it really is it's like a barrier. It's just getting in the way of you being fully present and alive in your body during the sexual experience. And it's also stopping you from being vulnerable and speaking openly to your partner about things that you want and how you can be closer. And it's just stopping you. So that it's a very, very powerful exercise. I would say that, writing out your sex history is not like you're going to sit down on a Sunday and just take a couple hours and write it out. It's something that, things come to you gradually, over weeks or months, right? And it's just like, oh, I forgot about that. And then you write it down and you let it go.
What do you think too, the sex history, is it more about what's blocking you from negative, or do you think there's some positive parts of your sex history that you would include as well? Or do you think
it's everything?
It's everything.
It's everything. Yeah. So I touched on the negative stuff, but there's also times when you felt super sexual and something happened and you just, for whatever reason, you were in the right headspace in the right time, the right place, and you just were there and you just allowed your body to I think every woman who's listening to this can think of that time where she completely let go. And she was like, yeehaw, let's bring it on. I'm here. We're doing this. And what was special about that moment? What happened? Can you recreate that? I don't know.
What do you think is the biggest myth about sex after 50?
That it stops. The older we get, the more disinterested we are, but we're still the same person, right? Our mother's generations, when they hit menopause, they're like, good, that part of my life is done. I no longer have to worry about having sex. That's finished, right?
I can cut my hair short and get a perm so I don't have to touch my hair anymore.
That's right. I don't have to look attractive for my partner, but you and I, and the women who are our age, we are pioneering this idea of sex into our 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the myth is that our sex declines, the quality of our sex declines, the frequency of our sex declines, when in fact, this is the moment where sex starts to get interesting. Because if you are in a long-term relationship and you've been with this person, through thick and thin, suddenly you have a safe place to land and you can be vulnerable and you can open up and you can start having those really difficult conversations that you couldn't maybe before, because you know that no matter what happens, this person is staying with you, right? So in that safety, in that security, that's when women's sexuality really starts to, get bigger and juicier and better. It's really about women stepping up and saying, I just need something new. I need something different.
Is there a better time to for intimacy, morning, noon, or night?
Our hormones are at their best in the morning. So like higher testosterone levels, higher, like all of our, we've got our best hormone situation happening in the morning. But I would say it's really about understanding your personal, what you like. So for me, like after 8 o'clock, I'm at night. After 8 o'clock at night, I'm done. And my husband knows if he tries to touch me after 8, like he's in for something, because I am hard no after 8. So I'm more of an afternoon person myself.
Yeah,
but it's very much a personal preference.
Yeah, that would make sense. If you could put one message on a billboard for every woman in her 50s to see, what would it say?
Ask for what you want. Demand what you want, not just in sex, but in life. Start asking, and you might be surprised that you get what you asked for.
I guess be careful what you ask for.
No, not be careful. Don't be careful what you ask for. Ask with abandon. Like, just go for it. Like, what do you have to lose if you say to your partner, I want to try something new. I want to do some interesting things. I want us to be closer, and I want our sex life to be more interesting. I mean, it's a slam dunk.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we would love to connect with you on Instagram. So be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire. See you next time.